Greetings again. I got something here might interest a couple of people out there that are into this old school racing shit, high performance auto parts from days gone by. I just recently stumbled across these. These are actually pretty cool little pair of cylinder heads. What they are is Phase 2 Bowtie heads from, I think they're around 87. So when these heads were made, cast iron. They're made for classes that required cast iron cylinder heads and shit. But these been around. Somebody dumped a shitload of money into them at one time. They're fully decked out. They've been ported quite extensively. Pretty good port job on them. They've been milled. They got comp 943 valve springs. They're set up at a 1900 installed height, 250 pounds on the seat, about 600 open. They're good for about 680 lift, which I'm running a 630 lift cam with a 1:55 ratio rocker, so it'll be a 651 lift cam. These are some old school stock car oval track cylinder heads. These would be a killer pair of heads to build a sleeper engine with. If you're just looking at them, look at the ends of them. There's nothing telling you that they're anything special. The untrained eye would look at that and just see an old stock pair of small block Chevy heads. One of the clues, though, is this big fucking lump right here on the side of the head. And they're angle plugged. But you see that big lump. The Phase 1 Bowtie heads didn't have that big lump. That's the Phase 2. And then the plug there, they made it flush. But yeah, you got that big lump sticking out there. That's your only identifying on the X outside of it. The only way you can tell it's anything other than an old stock small block Chevy head. But them are fucking 1.560 diameter valve springs. You got Ferrea 205 intake, 1.65 exhaust. Ferrea valves. I think they're about 200 long. There's the date. So 7th, 87. Bowtie. And that's your casting number. 140-11-034. These are pretty damn good heads. Phase 1 Bowtie heads, out of the box, they might hit 230 CFM at 550 lift or so. They wasn't all that, but for 1980 they were pretty good, I guess. But Phase 1 was the first one they called a Bowtie head. But before that, they had the 292 turbo heads that come out like 72, 73. And they were the angle plug over the counter heads with no exhaust crossover and shit. And the old 292 turbo heads actually flowed more than the first Phase 1 Bowtie head did. So they went back to the drawing board and come up with the Phase 2 Bowtie head. I think it hit the scene around 82. But it flowed 245, 250 as is. But they made these heads to port. They were more or less a blank fucking canvas for porters. GM made these things real thick. They raised the stud bosses and shit, the valve spring seats, all that shit's raised up. They put a bunch of extra metal in them. Hell, the fucking from the valve cover rail to there is it's pretty well even. So they put some fucking metal in there. There's people getting 325, 330 CFM out of these fucking heads. But they were factory advertised at a 185 cc intake runner. But people CC them, they usually came out to about 190. These here CC'd at 210. So, and the Phase 1, and I think the Phase 2, they had a 55 cc chamber. And all the Phase 2, they had a 64 cc chamber. The Phase 1 had a 55 cc chamber. But these here have had about 40 thousandths milled off of them. They're about, let's see, 40. Oh. They're about 56, 57 cc. Or 55. 55 is what the guy told me. So, you got 55 cc chambers. And the intake face has been milled to compensate. It's all good shit in there. These heads were probably originally modified back in the fucking late 80s. There's the bottom side. Yeah, they're milled. Small chambers. Big fucking valves. Angle plug. Those are Ferrea valves, intake and exhaust. Got a 5-angle valve job. I bought these from a machine shop. So customer never came and picked them up. They're a good pair of fucking heads. You can tell you've had the shit milled out of them there. And the push rod slot's been elongated to run some big ratio rockers. I'm gonna run a 155, but ain't no telling what they ran on them. Probably a 1.7 or something. I think they're flat milled. They need just cleaned up. He said they've been sitting around for a few years. So, but they're ready to rock and roll allegedly. And they're set up for 680 lift cam. So they right up my alley. They'll work with this 355 I'm working on just fine. It's gonna be a 355 zero deck with a 40 thick or 38 thick gasket. That's what I'm using. It'll come out to a little over 11.5 to 1 compression with flat tops with a 38 quench. So that big ass camshaft, it'll bleed it off. It'll run on 93 octane like it was made for it. So I expect no concerns there. Done it before, do it again. These are getting to be pretty rare old heads. These are some dinosaurs actually. We started making these in 1980, and I think they made these type up to the early 90s. And then they made a Phase 3. But the later ones they made, you could identify them, but instead of the contour and shit, like a stock head would have there, they were just flat on the end, like modern heads. Those ain't worth a shit, no matter what you do to them. They took a lot of metal out of them, and it come from a different foundry. Smaller runners and shit out of the box. These heads can make some power. You can build a powerful small block Chevy. I was gonna use these asphalt modified or dirt modified fucking dart heads. The shitload of work done to them, but they're ported and tubed and epoxied up and shit. And I'm gonna have to go with a 150 relocated rocker and 150 lifter, offset lifter, to get that push rod to not hit the epoxy where they opened up the intake port there. So I figure by the time I buy the fucking rockers and the lifters, I paid $1,000 for this pair of heads. Got a full brand new $450 set of valve springs in them. So, man, these are a rare pair of casting heads, fresh out of the machine shop, ready to clean up and bolt on. I'll probably they just shot some black paint on them, but I'll probably clean the shit out of them, and I want to paint the engine fucking new cast gray. So I'll probably paint the heads the same color, just new cast gray. But other than that, I'm gonna bolt them on as is. So they're ready for action. And they're already set up about where my camshaft valve spring pressure needs to be. It's about where I wanted it to be. So usually a good solid roller, about 250 pounds on the seat will get you. And then 600 open. These are cool ass old heads though. I built a 302 small block Chevy back in the day with a pair of these heads. They were hogged out and shit. But it was a 13.5 to 1 compression, 60 over 302. Had Bill Miller aluminum rods in it, Aries custom pistons, had a stock forged 302 crank that had a bunch of weight taken off of it, and it was knife edged and shit. But I'd shift that fucker at 9,800 RPM. Had a pair of these heads here on it. That thing run 620s in the 8th NA with a 830 Holley annular discharge double pumper on a Holley strip dominator that was ported. A pair of these heads that was ported. And it had about a 680 lift, 288 at 50 solid roller cam, 7,000 stall, and a 617 gear ratio, a 1431 slick on a 15 by 14 center line, ladder bars. It was a Vega, but it run 970s in the fucking quarter. And said it had a pair of these heads on it that were pretty maxed out. That engine made about 2 horse per cube and revved to the fucking moon. It was like an old modified production type engine. Aluminum rods and lightweight rotating assembly. Spin like a fucking chainsaw. But these heads got potential. I'm expecting over 550 plus horsepower out of this 355. I'm gonna put these on. Like I said, it just looked like old stock fucking 350 heads. If you don't know what you're looking at, there they are. Chevy Bowtie Phase 2.